r/today I fricked up. Early Tax 7057 says, today I fricked up be telling my sister she deserved to be cheated on and now my whole family is furious with me. This happened last week and now everyone in my family is giving me the silent treatment. I guess I get why, but I don't know if I was really that out of line. My sister has been married for 3 years, found out her husband was cheating on her. She was obviously devastated and she came to me venting and crying about how unfair it was and how it has ruined her life. I listened for hours, but honestly, I'm conflicted about the whole thing because I know she's not an innocent party. See, she's been a pretty manipulative partner herself. She's always nitpicking her husband, never appreciates anything he does, and she's openly flirted with other guys when they've gone out. I've seen her do it, and it always made me uncomfortable. Finally, she asked me point blank if I thought she deserved this, and in the heat of the moment, I told her, honestly, maybe you kind of do. If you're going to treat people like crap, it's going to come back to you eventually. Now, my family thinks I'm the worst sibling alive. Everyone's texting me about how insensitive I was, and my mom called to say I should apologize immediately for kicking her while she's down. But am I really wrong for saying what everyone was thinking? She wanted the truth, so I told her. Anyway, now I'm questioning if I totally messed up. I didn't mean to add to her pain, but is it really wrong to call someone out on their own toxic behavior? Too long, didn't read, sister got cheated on, and asked if I thought she deserved it. I said kind of because she's been a toxic partner herself. Now my whole family is mad at me for being throwaway. I says she deserves to be divorced, not cheated on. Esh. Colorful Butterfly 25 says they needed to be rational instead of rash. Theon Liscrub Therese says best I can do is rational. Fuzztooth says seems more like r/am I the butthole material. Acid Trip in Panda says yeah, that's exactly where I thought I was. Arceus says waiting for the plot twist. Morsome Forever says he is the husband. Shrimp Boat Sailor says dueling banjos. Snoopius Cute says I didn't mean to add to her pain, that's exactly what you meant to do. How do you think your comment could be received except adding to her pain? Gitaslayer 136 says I mean, would you rather never say anything about your behavior? Fully comprehending your character flaws and how they negatively impact your life, but never speaking out for the sake of politeness? I'm genuinely asking. Some days, I feel like I must be autistic the way people seem to just intuit these social rules. Kaius says you might be autistic if you don't realize there's a time and place for that, and while your sister is sobbing to you after just finding out she was cheated on is definitely neither the time nor place. Public Creditor says your sister forgot a very important rule, never ask a question you don't want to hear the answer to. H0LDenhisk0CK says there's a time and a place for truths like that, and that wasn't it. Thing move emo. Michael Scott 666 says plot twist, Op was the affair partner. Sugapuff Karma says yes, her behavior is no excuse to cheat. As her sister, you should have supported her, not torn her down. Karma is a biatch, and she is coming for you. Alternative War 396 says if he cheated on her because she cheated on him, I could see that, but he should filed divorce and leave instead of cheating. She did not deserve to be cheated on. They cold gotten marriage counseling to fix this. If he cheated, he's no peach either. You're an asshole for saying she deserved that. Vulspride says if she had to ask you that question, that means she is well aware of her actions, and she knows in her own mind that she's probably a piece of shit. She just wanted to escape reality and she expected you to blindly tell her she did nothing wrong. I guess she didn't expect you to give her the truth pill. Not your fault either way. Karate Kid 72 says, the real questions will be why is everyone else okay with her behavior? People like this, and my own sister, never own up to their faults. It's always the other person's fault. Your family giving the green light to THJS behavior, my sister has manipulated my family similarly, does not mean you were wrong. She asked your opinion. You gave it. If you had lied, you'd be as culpable in her failed relationship and her gaslighting. Don't apologize. I doubt that her emotions are genuine anyway. You didn't give sympathy, so she turned on you. It's Frick, Whittage and you owe a gaslighter nothing. Limit your interactions with her and anything you say. There's a guy on IG named Jefferson Fisher who has posts about how to deal with narcissists. Check it out. Renegade Dean says, nobody deserves to be cheated on except a cheater. That's just funny when a cheater gets cheated on, especially if it's their affair partner. A person can be a big pile of, but the spouse should divorce them and then find whoever. Cheaters are junk and morally bankrupt. She could have been confronted, but cheating is a level that destroys people. That changes people permanently. She will have problems with this, since you're supporting her soon-to-be ex. Sinjasi says, found who her husband cheated on her with. Blublu says, your family thinks you're bad because you had the balls to say what everyone is thinking. A bit of the asshole, because no one deserves to be cheated on. However, there is more to this story. Treehugger 1874 says, when I'm asked these type of questions, I always ask, do you want my honest opinion, or are you just needed to vent? Zach the person says, IDK, I feel like, if he divorced her, or they were just living separately and having fights all the time, that she deserved it, but her cheating on someone is really unforgivable. I'd even go as far as to say even in the hypothetical case she cheated on him first, it still wouldn't be excusable to cheat on her back. I don't think your family should be reacting that extreme about it, but you definitely did cross a line. Abdrida says, so, she asked for your honest opinion and then went and told everyone about it to vilify you because she didn't like it. I can see what you are talking about. Yauga Reddit says, the greatest skill in conversation is knowing when to shut up. That said, if your mother did say kicking her while she's down, it does imply your mother agrees there was something to kick about. You just went straight for the nuclear option. Today I fricked up. WayNaughtXD says, today I fricked up be hugging my doctor. Title pretty much says it, but I'll elaborate. Was 21 or 22 at the time. Needed to have my wisdom teeth pulled. Got referred to an oral surgeon and went to my first appointment/consultation. He was a young looking doctor, handsome, but not my type, and super friendly and smiley. We met in his office first to discuss a few things, then he led me to the exam room so he could check out my teeth. When we got to the exam room, he turned around and faced me, had a big smile on his face and his left arm extended wide open, right hand was holding my chart. I looked at him confused and awkwardly stepped forward into his arms and gave him a hug. He stiffened like a board, and that was when I realized I fucked up and he was simply doing an after you motion for me to enter the exam room. I turned bright red and it was so awkward as he was in my face examining the inside of my mouth and my teeth. Too long, didn't read, young handsome doctor did an after you gesture and I misunderstood and hugged him instead. Bonus note, I had my wisdom teeth extraction later on. Did all 4 at once, so was put under general anesthesia. Everyone gets loopy after coming out of anesthesia, but I apparently would not shut up from the moment I woke from anesthesia. The nurses told my dad they've never had a patient as talkative as. Chazcatrix says, That actually fairly often due to stress at the dentist. You're not the first one. So is talking a lot under anesthesia. As for the last part, was probably just small talk and exaggeration to get your dad ready for you being loopy. He fetches you, you're not too talkative, and he's now relaxed because the worst is over. WayNaughtXD says, maybe the anesthesia has distorted my memory, but I remember the nurse looking seriously annoyed as she told my father I hadn't stopped talking. Which, of course, led me to continue talking about how I'm a good conversationalist. My dad laughed and said, yeah, she never shuts up. LeBrace says, when I was a teenager, I ended up in hospital due to a mysterious infection. Soon after entering the ward, I met the doctor who extended his hand. For some reason, I got it in my head he wanted to take the book I was reading. He laughed and said I was trying to shake your hand, not take your book. Also after anesthesia, I told the recovery staff I was a Newcastle United fan. I had zero interest in football and had never seen a single game. With the relief I felt from no longer being horribly ill, I'd have told them anything. So, you're not alone. Dulcet Decorum Est says, better than one dude who, while laying down in the stretcher, while coming out of anesthesia said y'all, check this out, lifted his gown, and took a massive shit with the biggest smirk I have ever seen. Vodka Bud says, this is like a scene in Friends. Rachel has an interview with a guy, which goes really well, until she's about to leave, and he reaches for the door behind her, and she thinks he's going in for a peck on the cheek, so that's what she does. I find it hilarious cause that's the sort of cringy shit I'd do. Automoderator69 says, this is a better fit for r/tinf, today I nearly, ed him. Moldigim says, when my pregnant wife and I met with her doctor to go over the sonogram, she asked if we wanted to know the sex. We said yes. We already had been surprised by a boy and were hoping for a girl, but either way we would love our new child. When she said it was a girl, we were overjoyed. I hugged my wife, then turned around and gave the rather small doctor a hug and lifted her off the ground. She said she never saw a couple as happy as we were. I don't think she expected to be lifted off her feet, but seemed okay with it. She was great, and she showed up to deliver our daughter, even though she wasn't on call that day. She showed up wearing her tennis clothes. Mushabrain 500 says, Mayo, it's okay, shit happens. He probably got a good chuckle out of it after. Ferguson Thicket says, I was put under when I had my wisdom teeth out too. When I was coming out of it, apparently I hugged the doctor and wouldn't let go. Blood Arranger Wisp says, totally relatable. A friend once hugged her professor by mistake. Super awkward, but everyone laughed it off. These things happen when nerves take over. Don't stress about it, people understand. Plus, it's a funny story to share later. Sigmund Freud says, he stiffened like a board, I'll bet he did. In all seriousness, if it makes you feel any better, I'm a dentist and I have sex with my patients all the time. Nithramoba 5092 says, I thanked the hospital staff constantly after my hernia opus. I guess it's better than being rude. Prairie Crab says, I had a health problem that a test showed was completely cured. I was thrilled, as was the doctor. I stood up from my chair and reached for my coat. He thought I was going in for a hug, so he opened his arms. I got my coat and acted like I didn't notice because his face was bright red. Nice of him. Epidus says, if I were your dentist, that would have made my day. Who doesn't love a hug? Frank Symptoms says, the nurses told my dad they've never had a patient as talkative as me. All things considered, that's quite a statement. There are some great YouTube videos of people coming out from anesthesia. Hilarious. GI Makes says, while handing in an exam, one of my professors in university waved to me from literally 3 feet away, and I was so confused I said, yo, high five. So we did. I only realized as I left he was just waving me off. But still from 3 feet away. Lol, he was arguably the nicest and coolest music professor, which lent to the idea he might be going for the high five. In a ho, I don't cringe much about it cause I did say it, and not just go for it, so I do feel for you Opus. Kevs417 says, I did this after a recital. When I was 15, I was backstage and the elderly administrative man holding a door for me and making a gesture almost got a hug from me and my instrument. Ahari says, I got lost in a Sam's Club after getting my wisdom teeth pulled, but I certainly didn't say anything. Proud Adhesiveness 55 says, ouch, did tell everything you said? That's messed up though, funny but messed up. r/today I fricked up. Ohio Guy 65 says, today I fricked up be not thinking when I threw stuff out. A small one, but I found it funny. My dog and constant companion for the last 14 years passed away recently. I decided to clean up and threw out a bunch of her stuff. Including her dog bed and way too many toys. Including several very loud squeaky toys. The trash pickup is bright and early this morning. Happened to be while I was looking out the window and making my morning coffee. The sanitation worker dumped the bags into the truck, then immediately hit the lever to compact the garbage. As I mentioned, it was early morning and there were several startlingly loud toys which scream out when squeezed. Yes, the worker definitely heard the noise and stopped the compactor from any further movement. I'm glad to report that emergency services were not notified about living things being thrown away and crushed. Too long, didn't read as required. Today I fricked up be throwing a bunch of squeaky toys in the garbage. A Platype duo says, I found this a little sad, like it was one last reminder from your dog saying hey I was here. Squarewing 6273 says, or maybe saying it's all good, I've got plenty of toys with me now. Reflet says, I like the toys were giving the good old girl one last send off. Mistress Liliana says, could everyone give her a break about not donating? She just lost her best friend of 14 years. I'm sure seeing all that stuff every day hurt and she likely isn't thinking entirely straight. I'm sorry for you loss. I hope the funny story brightens your day a little. Ohio Guy 65 says, first I'm a guy, second none of the local shelters would take used items or open food. I even had a large box of individual serving dog food that they didn't want. Admiral Jacob says, none of the local shelters would take used items or open food. Yeah, found that out when my mother's dog passed that I'd been caring for when she got too sick herself to care for him. Nearly full huge/heavy bag of food too. Reddit says, why didn't you donate all that stuff instead of sending it to a landfill? It sounds like at least some of it was still usable and every dog shelter within driving distance from you would have loved that stuff. Ohio Guy 65 says, I tried to donate everything locally. All donations must be new items. Anything in packages must be unopened. So toys, leashes, and collars had to be new. Even her food and dog treats couldn't be donated. I had a box of individual serving food, but the box was open, so that was a no-go. Crakalaka says, is that really an option? They'll accept that stuff? Vestron Video says, why can't I read stories like this anymore without crying? What is happening to me? Why? Any story about dogs, pets, animals, people that are extremely happy or sad. It's all affecting me, and I don't know why. Sunny and Missy says, that's hilarious. Thank you for making me laugh, I needed that today. I can just imagine the terror coursing through that poor worker on hearing that noise. Our pickup is usually 1.30 am. So I initially imagined it at that time of night too, and it made it even funnier. Peach Gloucester says, Losing a pet is so tough, and cleaning up their things can be emotional. It's understandable not to think about donating in that moment. A friend once donated to a shelter later on when she was ready. Take your time and remember the good times with your pup. DeviantElf says, that is funny. I say this as someone who just lost a cat and have been picking up toys in all corners of the house when I see them. Being a cat, not squeaky ones, but bell balls are around. Which leads to when I had ordered some bell balls, or whatever they are called, the balls with bells in them, and when they were delivered via USPS my husband just happened to get home at the same time. He also didn't know I'd ordered them. And the mail lady is just a nice person and fun. So she waves this bag of jingling things in the middle of summer, so not Christmas stuff, and is grinning. He thought it was pretty funny, and I wish I'd seen it. He said something like, I get out of the car and she's waving this jingling bag and I realized it must be cat toys. D. Falsus says, you could have given all of those away instead of just throwing it away. We already throw away too much stuff. Putnam Pete says, I thought this was about missing a dog, not startling a garbage man. Today I fricked up. Brock and Jellyfish says, today I fricked up be trusting the VA patient advocate. I suppose technically yesterday, but I called the VA patient to request a different provider due to a lack of comfort being seen by a male doctor. Today, he himself calls me, directly asks me about calling the patient advocate, and then graciously tells me I can be reassigned to another provider. All this was after I asked him to get me a referral to the breast clinic. Had a biopsy in September, it's benign, but after the biopsy healed I began having extreme sensitivity away from the biopsy site. The found nothing, and he wanted me to come in for an office visit that I didn't think was medically necessary. Which it must not have been, as he immediately put in the referral when I pushed back. Too long. Didn't read, didn't think I'd have to ask the patient advocate to maybe not tell the doctor I was complaining about that I was complaining about him. Itul Forluti says, anything you tell anyone at the VA, even in passing, is put in your notes and anybody with access to your file can read them. Brock and Jellyfish says, so why did they give my file to someone I stated I'm not comfortable seeing? Why would they not say, hey, this doctor has caused the patient enough distress that she's requesting to not see him, maybe block him from accessing her file, and transfer her care to someone else? Medium Engineer 8845 says, it's just not how that works honestly. With you being a patient of his who's had complications, if he's not notified of the complaint/request for transfer of care then he's liable to look at your file. If you continued to be his patient that's within his rights. He should not have called you though, I'll say that. Red Bosk says, it's standard of care for a primary care doctor to see someone after an visit to arrange and coordinate care. Often breast surgeons have a very long wait, and it may not be clear that this is something a breast surgeon needs to see without evaluating you first. If this is something you thought was urgent enough to be seen in the primary care follow-up is reasonable before sending a referral that may or may not be indicated and could be very delayed. Also reasonable not to be seen by a male presenting physician if you don't want to. I don't get it. It sounds like the complaint is their gender? Or that they wanted to see you in the office? Why couldn't the advocate tell them why you wanted to see a different provider? That would be critical when assigning you to a new provider if it was due to their gender. Kiwi Iceway says, that sucks, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Maybe try reaching out to a different patient advocate or someone higher up if you can. A friend of mine found success that way. Also, r/veterans might have useful advice on navigating the VA system better. Good luck. Kmilhouse says, hi, I'm actually a VA physician who has encountered this. Someone is actually required to reach out to the person who filed the complaint within 48 hours and log something in CPRS about it. Granted, he really should have had his section chief do it, but maybe he just wanted to hear from you if there was something he could do better. In any case, I doubt he'll take it personally. He was just flagged about the call and obligated to respond to it per our protocol. Clever Burrito says, "Hello, I'm also a veteran. I'm seen in the women's clinic for my primary care, and any of the providers who see any part of my body I wouldn't be comfortable showing off in public are women. They might be accommodating me because I have MST in my file. Call the appointment scheduling number and ask for a transfer to the women's clinic for primary care. That's how I did it. If all else fails, call the VA hotline, formerly White House VA hotline, at 800-698-2411. I've called them a few times, and they've always been very helpful with a pretty quick turnaround time. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help." Katuta2 says, "Request to go to a women's clinic. Originally I was opposed to it, but it has by far been the best experience." King God's Venus says, "Call and tell them you want another doctor. They're going to tell you that they can't just do that, but ask to speak to someone higher up. I had shit doctors for 4 years, just trying to get seen in person. Most of the doctors in the area are pissy because they changed where they're getting paid out of. They make less in my area now. They are a part of a different county, and they made it hard to even get a phone appointment. Call, complain, and get it handled. They're there to listen to you." Fair Pineapple 9545 says, "I'm in the UK and the NHS is great, but also a shit show, and it's hard to avoid a crap GP here." Proud Persimmon 3088 says, "Come join us on r/veterans to complain about VA patient advocates. Lots of share crappy experiences, but also a lot of great information on how to get better care, community care, etc. Wish you the best, sister." r/today I fricked up. Okay, appointment 5573 says, "Today I fricked up be satisfying my craving for apple juice. I worked all day today installing 150-pound plus wall panels for a commercial walk-in freezer. It's extremely hard work, and I sweat a lot. Fast-paced and heavy lifting all day for 8 hours. I didn't drink much water throughout the day, just 1 bottle and an energy drink, so by the end of the day I was severely dehydrated. On my way home, I bought a large gallon-sized jug of 100% pure apple juice made from concentrate. I absolutely love apple juice, and haven't had it in a long time, and was super thirsty, so I drank glass after glass, non-stop for about 20 minutes, until the entire gallon was gone. I watched a 30-minute YouTube video after that, and went to lay down. I noticed that I was farting a lot, like 10 good long rips back to back, maybe 20 seconds apart. Then I went for fart-11 or so, in bed, while laying down, and I could tell after a little push, that this pitch needed a catcher. I got up so fast out to bed, squished my dog in the process scrambling, and ran to the bathroom as fast as possible. I pulled my shorts down and jumped on the toilet, and just like a firehouse, about 1/3 of a gallon of liquid came shooting out of my ass. Following that was more horrendous gas, then streams, then gas, and so on. After like 15 good sized sprays and splatters, I was wondering what the frick is going on. I hardly ate anything today, and then I thought to Google apple juice side effects. Violent diarrhea was the first thing that popped up, and it all started to make sense. I found an Reddit article about a guy drinking 2 gallons of apple juice and sharting all over his company van while on the phone with his wife and driving 2 hours home and all the shit. Luckily that wasn't my case, because I've shit myself so many times in my adulthood that I can almost always tell if it's an untrustworthy fart. So, here I am, legs completely numb, and scared to leave the safety of my toilet, because I don't know when the next tsunami is coming. Today I learned that excessive apple juice consumption causes extreme diarrhea. I'm just so grateful I drank it after I got home. Could have been way worse. Too long, didn't read, worked a hard day at work, drank 1 gallon of apple juice, had uncontrollable diarrhea, and still on the toilet as I write this. Didn't know that this could. Pro024 says. Sorbital strikes again. Kinetics says. The good news is, Op now knows what colonoscopy prep is. OK appointment 5573 says. Update, I have to get up very early for work, so I'm back in bed laying down. As soon as I got in bed the bubble guts started again. I released 2 successful farts, but this is no doubt going to end up with me shitting the bed tonight. Maybe a couple times. I have 3 pairs of clean boxers and a new pack of baby wipes, so I'm fairly prepared for the events to come. Widal Anzo says. Drink water, energy drinks dehydrate you, and apple juice is for taste, not thirst. JDM713 says. I've shit myself so many times in my adulthood, how many times? Why? OK appointment 5573 says. Probably because I regularly make dietary decisions equivalent to or worse than drinking a gallon of apple juice in a 20-minute period. Socialsis Squid says. My brother in Christ, I have Apes, and I think you outshot me. Carson 63000 says. Is it even physically possible to drink a gallon of anything in 20 minutes? Sir Twitch says. Important rule to follow in life, never trust a fart. And yes, that can be literal or metaphorical. Emayaj says. I was trying to eat my dinner, but I couldn't, because I kept giggling the more I read. I'm Aussie, so I don't know what 1 gallon equates to. I just converted it into liters, and it made me snort so loud. OK appointment 5573 says. Update. 10:31 PM 45 minutes on toilet total in 3 separate trips. Back in bed the 4th time, and I'm staying here either until I wake up for work or I shit the bed. Will update in the morning before work or if I wake up to a mudslide in bed. Lacalar8204 says. Ibs over here. Had a rectal prolapse repair 1 year ago. Constipation is so much more manageable. I do go through random bouts of that, definitely isn't a fart coming. I'll wear sanitary pads. When it's like really bad, I do have adult pull-up briefs that I will use. Bontrauben says. This happened to my buddy in high school. He always drank a ton of juice, but really guzzled the apple juice one day and had the runs. Went back to drink more juice after all. Okinawa Lingerus says. This pitch needed a catcher. Freedom Fam says. In theory, duct tape and a trash bag could make a diaper. Nursethingsplease says. I made this mistake with a gallon of raspberry lemonade. Secret Macaroni says. The punishment of gluttony. John G1508 says. I knew where this was going just based off the title. I did this before. Sculled a liter of apple juice just before a gig and had to play through 45 minutes of holding in diarrhea. Shagadelic says. I did this last Friday after finding a sale for $2 apple juice gallons. I feel for you. I was in pain for a long time before it hit, and my god did it suck. I had issues the next day, but it was much less intense. Just take it carefully the next day. Brakelis says. I think this is a repost bot. Imbatman 80,085 says. Apple juice can do this to you. I must be immune. I have 3 2-liter jugs in my fridge with a 4th one at half. Today I fricked up. Caramel Candy says. Today I fricked up be standing up and underestimating a pad. I have a heavy flow. Because of this, I always use the thick pads that almost feel like a diaper. I've never really used a tampon or cup, just because I find that pads are the most comfortable for me personally. I'd always been a leaker, but nothing to the extent of today's frickery. I sit a little weirdly on my period. By that, I mean I kind of do so with more pressure on my front than my back, because I get severe back cramps. I usually make jewelry and such to pass time, often playing a YouTube video in the background. Today, I stood up, needing to go to the bathroom, and feel a very heavy gush. It's a very popular thing for people to say sneezing/standing up during your period sucks for this reason. I get it all the time, and I'm accustomed to it, but this was different. I felt a decent amount of blood rush down the side of my left leg all the way to my foot. To the point where my foot was leaving blood marks on the floor. I stood in shock, not really knowing what to do because what the frick, and in a panic I look over to the couch to see if I stained it. For some reason, maybe because of how I was positioned or something, I didn't leak onto the couch, but my fluffy pajamas, my floor, and my leg were the victim of this weird occurrence. It's not a special occurrence by any means, but it was so baffling that I just kind of took my pants off to see the damage. Oh boy. It looked like I practically soaked my PJ pants in blood from the inside and my leg was practically painted. When I checked in the bathroom to see how it could have happened, I was shocked to see that my pad, which was only in for around 6 hours, wasn't completely filled, so I don't know where all of it came from. Edit, I'm so sorry, I made a typo. Initially I said it wasn't completely filled, but I fixed the sentence. My apologies, I'm dyslexic and my phrasing can be quite weird. I'm fine now. I took some iron and drank water to prevent myself from passing out, but I'm never gonna forget this experience. I might invest in some tampons or something. Too long. Didn't read. Standing up for some reason released blood from my pad and basically caused an eruption of red down my leg, making me look like I was stabbed on the thigh or something. Akira GIF for now says, yes. What everyone said about getting checked out. My friend has hyperthyroidism and has described her periods like this. As a result, she's got really bad anemia. One thing that shocked me though is that you said it's only been on for about 6 hours. Girl recommended wear for a pad is for 8 hours, and with a heavy flow you're absolutely pushing it. You should be changing your pad as needed, not trying to stretch out the wear. You probably should be changing your pad more frequently than you currently are. Good Mythica says, I thought the same about the 6 hours part. I literally change mine like 4 to 5 times a day, and I'm not even a heavy bleeder. Mistress Lida says, weigh your pads, and if relevant, tampons, soaked underwear, cups, you get the gist here. I know it sounds gross, but weigh the type you normally use, put the used ones in a plastic bag, and weigh them. This is sounding like something that should be checked out properly, and doctors tend to like numbers instead of just a statement of that you bleed a lot. Tralamp says, I've gone to bed with a cup in and a pad on just in case and still woken up to sheets that looked like a crime scene. Periods can be unpredictable and are always annoying. Indigabloop 901 says, you might want to bring that up at your next doctor's appointment. That kind of volume seems a lot. I initially thought you have sat down weird and the pad hadn't absorbed any of your flow. But if it was full and overflowing, that seems noteworthy. Chicken Noodle SUI says, you said the pad wasn't full and then there was a sudden gush when you stood up. That suggests to me that the menses are sitting up inside you until you change positions by standing up. I wonder if you have a tilted uterus, and so the menses stay up inside while you're sitting, but rushes out when you move. I don't know if that's possible, even just a guess, but maybe a menstrual cup or disc might work for you since, instead of being absorbent, it catches the menses inside the vaginal canal, so it might help prevent the gushes. Just an idea. Feel free to disregard if you do not wish to use a cup or disc for any reason. Mayaku says, so I always had really painful and heavy periods, unless I was on birth control, which seemed to control it somewhat. So mine was definitely hormonal in nature. Not thyroid, and I know that for a fact. because my father had Graves' disease, so mine is checked twice a year. All good every time. Definitely get that checked too, but you could also just have other things going on. Either way, it's worth a mention to your doctor. I eventually got sick of the pills and went the IUD route. I'm part of the lucky 80% that gets no period at all, so it's incredibly worth it to me. I fully understand this option isn't for everyone, but no periods is a nice bonus, especially if you're suffering. It can also be taken out at any time. If you want to have kids, it doesn't have to stay for the full length of time. So I like the flexibility it brings, but again, that's just me. If you're uncertain, your doctor is the perfect person to ask along with everything else. My main doctor was a male, but I found it much easier to deal with a female for my female problems. I also felt way more comfortable. Just a thought, if you have a male doctor. Either Fennel 1369 says, I no longer have a uterus because of this, but when at home I wore diapers. Like adult pull-ups. It was life-changing. For work, I bought those expensive period underwear. I'd wear a cup or a flex disc, a pad and the special underwear. I always wore black pants for extra protection. Isis J says, girl, I have severe periods, like waking up on the hour every hour all night to change a heavy flow pad and tampon, but they last 4 weeks. I'll have one light week and a few days off, then back at it. I have just started the pill and my life has changed so much. I had to have 2 surgeries for fibroids a few years ago, and we had our neighbor over for dinner. All of a sudden I didn't feel well, and I literally exploded with blood all over the floor, and was back in for my second surgery a few days later. Gotta get yourself checked out, babex. Che Candle says, girl, I also have a heavy flow, and using tampons was a game changer for me. Sometimes I still bleed through tampons after 4 hours, but the worry of leaks are significantly less. Plus with pads you may need to change more often with a heavy flow, 2 to 3 hours. Also I would recommend taking iron supplements for the week before/during your period. It's helped me with my energy levels. Pretend Activity 7311 says, with very heavy flow, please also get checked out for a possible blood clotting disorder, for instance. Von Willebrand. Fuston says, I had a very heavy flow when I was young too. I always wore a tampon and a pad. Biggest problem was at night, if I happened to sleep through. What pain. Psychological Fox 2561 says, this happens to me every once in a while, and I find that it happens when I've been sitting in a weird position for a good while, and when I stand up the pad kind of just stays in the weird position and it doesn't line up anymore, and then I leak through it. Definitely ask your doctor about it if you feel like you need to, though just saying in my experience it was user error lol. Radiant Mint 1 says, consider consulting a doctor about heavy unpredictable flow. r/today I fricked up. Bright equal 2422 says, TIFUpdate 3, by telling my cousin the reason I'm moving out is because of her husband. TW, sexual harassment to begin. I'd like to thank all of those that have given me advice and shown support during this hard time. It's given me more strength, and I've been asked some questions, so I'll answer a few. 1. Why did I wait 6 months to bring this up? This is a very serious accusation to bring up. I wanted to be absolutely sure that I wasn't imagining anything, and that I was sure of this. I was also terrified of how my family would react. 2. Why didn't I speak to Dumbo from the very beginning? I didn't have the courage and didn't know how he'd react, so I went to my parents for guidance. 3. Why didn't I bring this up until after I moved out? Simple, I thought my parents would have my back. Now to the update. After my last post, I spoke to Dumbo. Even though many advised me not to, I caved and I confronted him. I recorded the entire conversation like many suggested, and even made sure to send it to a few people just in case. Dumbo was quiet the whole time I spoke, and apologized even though he admits he stands by the fact he did nothing. His wife, my cousin, Rose, was laughing, snorting, and making side remarks the whole time. The urge to tell her to frick off was big, but I didn't want to make things worse for myself. The conclusion of our talk was this: they don't want to move on from this, but we will be civil. We will keep communication to a minimum until and after I move. He will make sure to never be alone around me. And lastly, that our conversation was basically pointless, and that even if I had spoken to him first place like everyone said, he says the result still would have been the same, meaning we would all be divided. I told my parents all of this morning as they wanted to know how the talk went, and even though I told them this was all said by Dumbo, they still said that I was trying to justify my reasons for not wanting to have the conversation with him, and basically they think I only caved into this to prove that I wasn't lying, because in the end, I never showed any signs of abuse or said anything. They have made clear that I have dived the whole family, and that it's going to take time for them to heal from the pain and distress I have caused in that. In the future, my family may or may not reach out to me again. After all of this, my biggest frick up was how I went about this. I should have waited until I was in my new place and away from these people. At least that way a lot of this could have been avoided. Many have said that, because I'm 23, I'm old enough to deal with this alone. To those who said this, thank you. I have learned that family will not always be there to back you up. Speaking up will never be a frick up, but the way you go about things most definitely can be, as you can see here. If I had done, said or acted in few different ways, I think the outcome could have been a bit different. In the end, I know I still have people that love and support me. My move out date is just around the corner, and eventually my mental health will be okay. In the meantime, I will focus on packing and being around those I love. Thank you once again for all your support. This will be my final update. Too long, didn't read. I ed up by how I went about confessing to being sexually harassed and could have done things. One ad says, parents, the fact that you didn't confront him means you're lying. Also parents, you're only confronting him to prove you're not lying. These people are so far up their own asses. Stoneangelus says, also shows that it's highly unlikely this would have had a different reaction from any of them if something was said sooner. Glittering Crow 1899 says, the way your parents still found a way to turn what Dumbo said as you making excuses for yourself is incredible. Unfortunately, family won't always stand by you, and I'm so sorry you've had to go through this. At least there are still people that love you. I'm sure you haven't had time to properly process this whole shit show, but please, once you move out and settle in, please take the time to grieve. In the end, this is still a loss. Sending you so much support, and I'm proud of you. Bright equal 2422 says, thank you for your support. With time I will take time and process. Can Incognito says, what a bunch of assholes. The best thing you could do is cut them all out of your life. Slamagram says, for real I would NC with your parents over this. Like wow. Just Owls says, who need enemies when you have a family like this? I'm so sorry the people who are supposed to love and protect you chose the creep instead. I hope you get somewhere safe. I mean, not on physically safe, but also mentally. Your family is not it. It's beyond horrible that your family expects you to deal with the situation like some sort of a professional. You're not a professional, and you shouldn't need to be. You're so young also. Even if you had reacted or acted better, my bet is they would still choose the creep. Muabusinesplin says, I'm sorry you felt so alone and isolated throughout this ordeal, particularly from your family and those you thought would support you. My hope for you is that you are able to find a real community and a real family coming out of this. People who will back you and believe you and not blame you when you've been victimized. Belorchid says, The mental gymnastics your family is performing to sidestep the issue is truly Olympic level. It's absurd how they expect you to bear the burden of proof and then still discredit your bravery when you step forward. Living in such a paradoxical situation is not just unfair, it's downright toxic. Your strength in confronting such a painful reality is commendable, and as you proceed with your life, remember that your worth isn't tethered to their reactions or beliefs. What's most important now is that you focus on your well-being and building a support system that truly reflects the values of trust, acceptance, and love that everyone deserves. As you move on, know that their failure to stand by you reflects on them, not on your character. Forge new connections that enrich your life and remind you that family is more than blood, it's about who shows up for you in your darkest hours. You've got a whole road ahead to curate your tribe, the one that will celebrate your truth and uplift you. Cheers to fresh starts and choosing your own family. Weepgirl 11307 says, "Speaks up, now you lie never, frick, Ing speaks again. Honestly would go NC for a while, and them being concerned about the family being divided is stupid and to some degree just gaslighting. Would they prefer Dal being raped, or what? WTF or Lime Point glad. You move out soon, and I hope you get your peace." Pixie Daisy says, "Your resilience is astounding, and you've shown tremendous courage facing such a dysfunctional family dynamic. It's disturbing how your own blood disregards your feelings and sides with the wrongdoer, but remember that DNA doesn't define familiar love, respect, and support do. I sincerely hope your move not only offers you a fresh start geographically but also serves as a liberating shift in your personal narrative. Find those who embrace you for who you are and never look back. Good luck, and I'm rooting for you to build a life surrounded by those who truly care. Stay strong, and always trust that stepping away from toxicity is a step toward your well-being." Ligu of Katasazin says, "So sorry for all you are going through. I want you to know that you deserve better and you are not stuck with the family you are born into. You can find your own chosen family that values, respects, and believes you. I'm proud of you for confronting him and moving out." Kali21 says, "That's crazy. My cousin's husband touched me a few years back and I told her. She made him come apologize, but he told her he was swatting flies when they had a private conversation. I told my other cousins and found out he was a registered creep from them. Whole family knew except me. Mom never told me. I couldn't sleep at night, so I went to the police and reported him. Nothing was done about it cause it was he said, she said. They still married and we don't talk b/c. I told on his nasty ass." Belarus says, "Your situation feels like a twisted riddle when is standing up for yourself both an admission of guilt and a reason for suspicion? I'm deeply sorry you're experiencing such a lack of basic empathy from those who should be your staunchest allies. It's a bitter truth to swallow, but sometimes the family we are born into fails us, and it's okay to seek out and cherish those who choose to be our family because of who we are, not just our shared genes. As you embark on your new journey, may you find the strength to cultivate a life rich with love and acceptance, and to cross paths with kindred spirits who will offer the solidarity and understanding your biological family has denied you. Your spirit in confronting the issue and taking steps to remove yourself from the toxicity is commendable. I sincerely believe that as you close this painful chapter, a better one awaits. Take care and be proud of the steps you're taking towards a healthier, happier you." r/today I fricked up. Zero Well Jarlson says, "Today I fricked up be watching Planet of the Apes. I need preface this story with the fact that this happened when I was young. But it's something that haunts me to this day. Friends and family will not let me live down the trauma I have endured because of that stupid ape movie. To set the scene, the year is 2001. After years in development and anticipation, Tim Burton's reimagining of the classic Planet of the Apes has hit theaters. My father, who is a nerd for the monkey movies, takes 6-year-old me to go to the first showing at our theater. This started as a good bonding moment, father and son sneaking in snacks, watching angry monkeys together, but it slowly turned into something that hangs over me like a dark cloud for the most part. I loved the movie because I was a huge monkey kid. For some reason, I really head with them, so seeing a movie that has talking monkeys enslaving humans was a roller coaster for me. I remember thinking they actually got monkeys to talk on camera because I'm dumb. My dad grew disappointed over the course of the movie and even asked if I wanted to walk out. But I enthusiastically begged him to stay, and it was all fun and games until the end of the movie. If you are unlucky enough to remember the details of this movie all these years later, let me give you a rundown. Mark Wahlberg's enslaved character, Leo, finally flies out of the Planet of the Apes and crash lands back on Earth. He has crashed in front of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and takes a look around. Everything seems fine until he sees Abraham Lincoln has instead been replaced with an ape. A Paraham Lincoln. It's not a cute ape, by the way. It's a menaced-eyed, smirk-having, dictator-looking kinda ape. The way this entire scene was shot, the close-ups of Ape Lincoln, the shocking reveal music, the fear on Leo's face, it all sent this wave of primal fear throughout my body. So much so that I just cried like a baby in the middle of the theater. So for some reason, this movie triggered a new irrational fear, Abraham Lincoln. I could not knowingly look at, hear of, or be around anything Lincoln related. $5 bills. History book. Hell, even Lincoln logs made me see the face of that damn dirty ape. I remember one time my grandma handed me a bunch of pennies and just walked away, and you would swear I saw a monster manifest before me the way he screamed and sprinted out of the house. I was just terrified of him to a point that is hard to articulate. Now that you know this, I can get to the meat and potatoes of this story. So the year is either 2003 or 2004. Everyone in my family is aware of this weird Lincoln fear and openly mocks me about it. We are on summer vacation, and the family gets the grand idea to go to Disney in Florida. I'm a kid, so I obviously love Disney and had a great time. But for some reason, my family thought it would be funny to drag me, the kid scared of Lincoln, into the one and only Hall of Presidents. I remember thinking, yeah, another ride, but when we got inside, I was wondering why nobody was strapped into their seats. All I remember was being blissfully unaware as to what we were doing. In this giant and dark room, I look at the stage, and I see shadows of someone, but I assume it was someone getting ready to talk. Suddenly, everyone hushes as they prepare for their experience. The show is about to begin. All I remember from this point was that a spotlight turned on and revealed a life-size, realistic Abraham Lincoln robot. Before it could even move a single gear, I remember thinking the following: Hez alive. Hez a robot? Is he going to walk off stage and come near me? All in about 0.5 seconds. He begins to slowly rise out of his chair and open his mouth. Everyone else in the Hall of Presidents is looking in awe at Robot Lincoln, and they finally get to hear, fourscore and gab. Apparently my only response was to let out a blood-curdling scream from the front row. A scream that resulted in a gasp from the audience that is forever burned into my memory. I then jumped out of my chair, ran down the aisle, and towards the exit. I remember thinking I was the fastest kid alive, and I was going to be safe once I got out. I got closer and closer to the exit, but before I could get there everything just went black. To this day, all I remember was seeing Lincoln and running that and waking up with several paramedics and my concerned family all kneeling around me, looking down at me. After it was established that I was okay, I was told that, because it was so dark in the hall, I didn't see the ropes blocking off the open doors I was running towards. So when I did make it to the door, I was abruptly stopped by them. So pretty much, I was clothesline slammed onto the ground and knocked out cold in front of hundreds of people. The whole incident resulted in the Hall of Presidents being shut down for the rest of the day. While this is embarrassing as hell, I think this incident may have knocked the fear out of me because, if I'm being real, I don't remember ever being scared of him after this. Too long. Didn't read. Tim Burton's Dumb Monkey movie gave me a fear of Abraham Lincoln that spiraled into me ruining vacation for a lot. Rabalite says, the apes cursed you. You need to stop calling them monkeys, they don't like it. You're welcome. Zero Well Jarlson says, you're right, I totally deserve this. Abstracted Plateau says, I'm sure you are someone else's core memory because of this. What a store. Abbott of Kukani says, I'd contribute my 2 cents here, but maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. Laura Lee Abbott says, I don't think I like your family. Who would do that to their own kid? Spectacular B says, oh my god, lol. That must have been horrifying. You truly have earned the right to say, frick, Lincoln in every way, AWW. Thanks for sharing. Flufferpurplubber says, you gotta get an Abe Lincoln costume and hide in dark parking lots to scare your family in return now. Mr. Slode says, I laughed so hard at this. Boba TTHX says, your family dragging you to the Hall of Presidents knowing about your Lincoln fear, that's honestly some next level parenting. Peach Gloster says, honestly, I feel for you. Those childhood fears are no joke. A friend of mine had a similar experience with clowns after watching a movie. It's all about facing it eventually, and it sounds like you've conquered yours. Thanks for sharing your wild story. Fist003 says, where the foo here? Only the family setting up to that ride. Twelheadwolf says, I've had to Google this Planet of the Apes version. I'm sure I've seen it, but I have absolutely no memory of it other than thinking that one of the chimps looked like Michael Jackson. TriTubeCool69 says, the fact that your dad didn't just rent the original movie instead of taking you to see that piece of trash remake probably constitutes abuse. Microtramp says, this is the kind of quality content I came here for. Well frick, I'm done. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm grateful for the amazing story. Librarian Hud says, if it makes you feel better, sometime in the year of our Lord 1968 I was a 4-year-old, and we went to Universal Studios, which had a Frankenstein display, where Frankenstein got up and walked. He thusly did that, and walked slowly to the crowd where I screamed, and ran for dear life through the crowd out into the concourse, my parents chasing me, everyone laughing. I still remember that terror to this day. Sudometrix says, this isn't real. Wiffyafbirth 1984 says, this is amazing. I had to recount the entire thing to my wife. Thanks for the belly laughs, especially on such a stressful day. Oranger Kitchen says, I laughed so hard I cried through this. Thank you. Effective Pizza 2524 says, thank you, it was awesome. Budgis Arabad says, this was written by Deb from Invader Zim. Nursethingsplease says, this is one of the least predictable stories I've seen on here in a while, lol. Consensus says, slow clap. Skeptical slow clap. Karma the sequel says, lost me by the second paragraph. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.